行くぞはっジェノサイカッタ
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. This is Forgo, and ever since the DOA 6 collaboration, we've gotten a lot of new players in this game, and a lot of them are pretty unfamiliar with the game and how to develop their characters, how to build their characters. So this is going to be a bit of a guide on how to build your characters, maybe how you should approach your characters as far as how you should build them. So aside from all of the things that most of us already know, like leveling up your cores, leveling up your cores to get all these extra stats, leveling up your infinity to at least level 10, so that way you get your attack buffs, you'll get your critical damage by 12%. Aside from those things, those are pretty much a given at the very beginning of the game, getting a character up to level 90. And once you get a character up to level 90, then you will be able to start awakening those characters. And you're actually going to need memories to awaken those characters, like these right here. And you need a total of 7 memories for each character to take them all the way up to level 50, like, my Chrysalid here, or my Orochi, or BS Rugal, whoever on this list. Aside from all of that, the big thing that people use to develop their characters and to build them is their Imprint Stones. So these are really important. Now for your BS and your SS characters and even collaboration characters, these are pretty much a given. They pretty much give us the BS stones or the SS or the collaboration stones that we need to develop the characters, and more than likely you could always equip those on them. However, sometimes the stones might have like attack, defense, or apply to balance type fighters, and so that's where some of the confusion actually lies. So I'll give you some guidelines on maybe on how you should build them. Now, when it comes to attack and balance type fighters, you should always use attack stones. Every single time that you develop these characters, you should always use attack. You should see that attack stat in the top slot, and then it should apply to whatever type fighter. This is a collaboration fighter, so it's an increased 7-night fighter attack by 10%. That's very, very important. Now, the confusion always lies when it comes to defensive characters. These are the characters that really seem to get there's a little confusion about, how you should actually build them. Well, a telltale sign for a defensive character is, one, if they have an attack buff, just a solid attack buff like Honoka here, who is used to increase attack by 35% for 7 seconds. Whenever you see an attack buff like that, that's a character, defensive or not, that you should absolutely put attack stones on, right? You should put those attack stones on. So if we go to attack stones here, go to Imprint Stones. For example, Honoka is a yellow fighter. So we'll go down to yellow here, and like this stone right here would actually work, except for the fact it only applies to balance type fighters. But if it applied to defense, this would be good because it increased attack, and then it says increase the burn, which Honoka has. It's always good to have stones that synergize with the dot effect that your character is already using. So if your character has shock damage, you'd want to try to make sure that there's shock damage on this stone. If they have poison, then you want to make sure they have poison, and so on and so on. Dot effects do stack on top of your stones. So if you have 3 stones with dot effects, all those dots will stack and they will do more damage. So that is very important to note. Another telltale sign for the defensive characters, as far as knowing whether or not to put defensive stones or attack stones on them, is whether or not they have dot explosion. And so if we scroll down to Leona here, we take a look at Leona. Leona does have dot explosion, deals poison damage equal to 20% of attack, and that's the key word, right? 20% of attack for 5 seconds to the target when attacked. All right, that's the key word right there. She doesn't have an attack buff based, like just a solid attack buff. She's got an attack buff based off of defense, but she doesn't have a solid attack buff, right? Like Honoka. But because she has an attack, because her explosion is based off of attack, you still would want to put attack stones on this character. You're still going to want to put attack stones because her explosion is actually based off of her attack. So she's going to do a lot more damage with the attack stones. Not to mention that the blue characters, whenever you're facing against Immortal Vulcan, the dungeon, you want to do as much damage on the first team as possible. And because Leona has poison, so you just want to apply as much damage as possible on the first team. So those are things that you want to be looking for, Like I said, when it comes to attack and balanced characters, you always want to put attack stones on them. You always want to apply attack. But when it comes to defensive characters, The only time that you would put a defensive stone on a character is whenever they have no attack buff, just a solid attack buff, or they have no explosion. If they don't have either of those things, then I would go with defensive stones. Like whenever you take a look at Ash here, Ash actually has an increased attack, so I'd actually give him attack stones. So let's see if we can find another one here. All right. So Deanne here actually has just an attack based off of defense, but she doesn't have an increased attack to her stats, just a solid increased attack, and she doesn't have any explosion. So for this character here, I would use defensive stones. You can see that I equipped defensive stones on her because I actually did do testing, and the defensive stones, she did seem to do more damage with defensive stones versus attack. And I actually did test this on this character. Now we do have other imprint stones that you can use. I mean, these are gold imprint stones that I'm talking about right now, just these solid attack stones, like these gold stones that we get from the Guild Raid, right? Well, this is actually from the Immortal Dungeons because it's an HP stone, but you actually get double attack stones from Guild Raid, which are stones like this one right here. You actually get these from Guild Raid, and them are the stones that I'm talking about. But you also have these other stones like these recovery stones. You have like decreased damage received stones like these right here. You really don't want to use those stones. If you can use like the HP stones, like you could use like the double attack are always going to be the best for the most part, or the HP stones if I can find any HP stones. I don't know if I even have any here, like this one right here. Just use these stones right here to buff up your characters. Obviously, if they have more attack, they're going to be able to do a lot more damage, but if they have extra HP, then they're actually going to give your character a little bit more survivability. So say you're building a character that has low survivability, maybe you'd want to give them extra HP. It's really going to depend on you. Personally, I would always go with double attack if I can, but if you can't and all you have is HP stones, then go with your HP stones for your characters. But when it comes to these other stones, like these PG rate stones, really you'd want to equip these on characters that you're going to be using in your Immortal Dungeons and characters that don't have a lot of PG rate to begin with, right? If they don't have much PG rate or they have 0 PG rate, like Leona here, Leona has 0 PG rate. And normally I would tell you to go ahead and put a PG stone on her. However, again, in Immortal Vulcan, you want to do as much damage as possible on the first team. So really I would advise just giving her all attack stones. And you know that I really honestly, like, I'm kind of simplifying things. I probably could do an entire video just on, you know, each character that you build a specific way. But these are just some guidelines as far as how to build your characters. I mean, things to look out for. Again, when it comes to a balance and attack characters, you always want to use the attack stones. When it comes to defensive characters, you want to use attack stones if they have dot explosion, or if they just have a solid attack buff, like what we showed with Honoka or SS Neo Tengo. Those kinds of characters are going to be better off with attack buffs. If they only have an attack based off defense and they have no other attack buff, they have no dot explosion, and they're a defensive character, then give them defensive stones. And when it comes to card sets, it's really just going to depend on where you're actually playing the character. If you're playing them in Guild Raid, more than likely the Serena sets are going to be the best for this, because you're going to be able to build up your PG super fast and you get a lot of extra attack when you're tagging in. This set right here is pretty much the Kingdom Come for Guild Raid. It's also the Kingdom Come for Spider Robots. Pretty much the best sets for those generally overall for most characters, whether they're defense, balance, or attack. This is pretty much going to be the best set for Guild Raid and Spider Robot. When it comes to the Immortal Dungeons, that's a little bit different story. Then I would probably go with either the Leah or the Akane set, generally for most characters. If they're defensive characters, I'd probably go with the KS set, which would be this set right here, because generally defensive characters do have an attack based off of defense. And because defensive characters usually have a lot of defense, this set actually increases their attack by quite a large margin on top of the attack of based off defense that the character might already have. So it's generally a really good set. But for attack and balance, you know, you're probably going to be wanting to run the Akane or the Leah. I have found that the Leah does do really well in the Immortal Dungeons because it can actually reset your skills, You can actually build up your PG a lot faster. It just seems to be a little bit better set. You get a nice solid 34% extra attack, but the Akane does do more damage. It really is just a matter of opinion on which of those sets is actually better. But really, for your attack and balance, the Leah and the Akane are really, really great for the Immortal Dungeons, and the Kayas are going to be really great for your defensive characters in the Immortal Dungeons. And, you know, if you're just starting off in this game, more than likely you're not going to have a lot of these sets available to you. You're probably just going to be able to get certain other sets. I don't even know if I have any of them in here. Like this set here. This is going to be really good for your attack characters, your balance characters. It's going to be good for your defensive characters. Or you also have this set right here. That's really good for your defensive characters because it gives you an increased attack based off of defense. I mean, those are some nice beginner sets to start off with. The Mad Tea Party set's also really good for beginners as far as your characters that are attack and balance is going to be really good for most of them. Characters that have a lot of critical rate increases like Orochiori or Guinness are really great for the Mad Tea Party set. But that's pretty much the gist of it, right? I mean, generally overall, this is how you really want to approach building your characters. You know, in Guild Raid, you're going to want to be using your Serena sets. And the Immortal Dungeons, you're going to want to be using your Akane, your Leah, maybe Chaos for your defensive characters. For Spider Robot, you're going to be wanting to use the Serena sets for the most part. And again, you know, attack stones for your attack characters and balance characters. And if they are defensive characters, just look to see if they have an increased attack, just a solid increased attack. If they do, give them attack stones. And if they have dot explosion, give them attack stones. If they don't have either of those and they're just a solid defensive character and they only have attack based off of defense and that's it, then I would give them defensive stones. So hopefully this will help somebody out there. There are some things that I left out about certain Imprint Stones. I just talked about the double attack and the HP stones, and didn't really talk about all the other Imprint Stones because honestly I could make an entire video just about that because those are really going to be used on specific characters rather than just a general overview of all of them. So I'll probably just make a separate video regarding those stones, and I do stream on Twitch at 9 p.m. GMT+7 time. The link will be in the description below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. See ya.